Hey guys, it's Julia and welcome back to my channel, and for today's video I'm going to be doing a book recommendations video, and today I'm going to be recommending to you guys books to read when you're in a reading slump. These are just some books that are a bit faster paced that I think are really gripping and that I think you should be able to get through pretty fast, which will help with your reading slump. And if you aren't aware what a reading slump is basically when you can't find a book that you're into in a way, or you start reading and you just can't get into anything, or you're extremely busy and overwhelmed so you can't read. It's just like you just can't read. You just like can't. And if you force yourself to read, then you can force yourself to dislike a book that you may have loved. So you know, I've mentioned these books in some of my past recommendations videos as well, so keep that in mind. I said I wasn't going to do that, but I think sometimes, of course not all the time, I'm going to try to keep it different, but some books stand out to me so much in certain categories, like, again, so first book I am going to be talking about today is for the person who loves a good thriller, and I'm going to be recommending You by Carolyn Kepnes. If you don't know, this is about a stalker named Joe who becomes obsessed with this girl, and it goes on from there. But the writing is written in second person, and it's written in a second person narrative with Joe as your protagonist, who he's kind of interesting. But the way this book is written, it's really thrilling and you're wondering what's going to happen. It is a little bit different to get into at first, just the way it is written, but overall it's not like difficult to read in any way, at least not difficult to read maybe because you might be a little freaked out, but in like the language isn't too hard to understand, and it is pretty crude though, so if you're uncomfortable with swearing or sexual content and things like that, this is an adult book, so throwing that out there. Next, I'm going with The Contemporary Lover, which most people do want a good contemporary when they're in a slump because they're easy to read, they're easy to understand, you don't have to get used to a new world or get used to these complex characters. Not that contemporary books don't have complex characters, because Colleen Hoover shows you that that is not true. And today I'm going to be recommending Confess by Colleen Hoover. This is one of my favorites by her. This was actually my first Colleen Hoover book and I enjoyed it so much, and it follows more of the premise of artwork and an artist, and it's about these two people and their romance and kind of in their bond, and there is some artwork in here which I think is amazing, and it definitely adds a lot to the story. And if you are at all interested in art, I would pick this up because it's really interesting. So really recommend Confess. Back to contemporary again, and this is what I was talking about when I mentioned that I will be mentioning some books that I have mentioned before, but that is Impulse by Ellen Hopkins. I recommended this in my mental illness book recommendations, and the reason why I'm recommending it again is because it's a book that I feel like so many people should read. If you are triggered to a lot of trigger warnings, you probably should avoid this though. It has a lot of triggers for suicide, depression. There's a long list. Of triggers, especially with Ellen Hopkins books in general. But the reason why I think this would be great for a reading slump is because it is written in verse, which is very easy because her books do tend to be like 500 to 600 pages, but they're written like this, and they're poetic, and they're really easy to get into. So I'd really recommend Impulse, and it's basically about three characters. Vanessa has a secret that keeps her coming back to the blade, and Connor seems to have the perfect life on the outside, but his inward battle with his parents, his peers, and himself get one last choice to pull the trigger. These are three lives that would have been cut short if not for the hasty intervention by loved ones or fate. Now they are given a second chance at a better life, but only if they help one another as they find the strength to let go of their inner demons for good. It's about them and their recoveries and them growing and things like that. So really interesting. But lighter note, I have White Hot Kiss by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I recommended this also in my trilogy recommendations, but this book is a book about gargoyles. It follows, hear me out, it is like paranormal, but it's so good and it's so easy to read, and these books, you'll fly right through them like this, like just, you're good. And it's about Layla, and Layla is half gargoyle and half demon, and she lives with the gargoyles, and so cool. And she is really into this other gargoyle, but since she's a half-breed, it's a little bit different for her. And then she meets a demon, like a full-blown demon, who just catches her eye and catches her interest, like, and piques her interest a little bit. And it's just, it is kind of, it does have to do a lot with the romance, but it also has to do with this world of gargoyles and demons, and it's really interesting. I'd highly recommend it. The third book in the trilogy, I had some problems with, but overall, White Hot Kiss and Stone Cold Touch were such amazing books, the first two, so I would really recommend checking this out. Going back to more of a thriller, I have The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torre, and this is a thriller about a girl who does not leave her apartment because of her homicidal tendencies and her gut feeling to kill, apparently. And she doesn't leave the apartment, and she stays in there, and she works as a cam girl, and that's how she makes her money and things like that. But she hasn't left there in a very long time, and she doesn't really plan to. But this is just a story of Diane Madden, the girl, and her struggles and all the thrilling things that go along with that. And on the back it says, "My life is simple as long as I follow the rules. Don't leave the apartment, never let anyone in, and don't kill anyone. I've obeyed these rules for 3 years, but rules are meant to be broken." Yeah, I basically know that off by heart because I've read it so many times in videos. But yes, I would really suggest The Girl in 6E. These are not books. The reason why it's also in here is because these are books that are very fast-paced, and if you're looking for a very fast-paced thriller, this would be the way to go. And because I just want to throw it out there that this is also adult as well, so if you're not comfortable with sexual content and things like that, I would really not suggest picking it up if you're not comfortable with that stuff. But this book, the writing isn't hard to understand. It's pretty straightforward. It's easy to get through. It's also just like a weird and fun, not fun, but they're intense and quick reads, so I would really recommend it. And then for my last recommendation, I have another one for a contemporary lover, someone who just likes contemporaries, especially when they're in a reading slump. And that's To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is the first book in a duology, and it's about Laura Jean, who, when she has a thing for a guy, she writes them like a love letter, and then she stores it away and she addresses it, puts a stamp, and then she never sends them because, like, why would she send them? They're mostly for her to get over the boy and move on. And this is about all the letters getting sent out and kind of the relationship with that. But don't get me wrong, it's not just about that, not really. And it has a huge thing to do with romance and family. The family dynamic in this book is amazing. And it has short, pretty short chapters. Like only, like this is one chapter that's like 3 pages. And that's like 5. Or like the chapters are relatively short, and it is a YA contemporary book, so it's very easy to get into and it's enjoyable. So those are the books that I recommend to you guys when you are in a reading slump. Of course, let me know your thoughts on the books down below and what books you recommend when you're in a reading slump. Of course, there's more that comes to my mind, but you know, we gotta start somewhere. So those are the 6 books that I suggest, and I will see you guys soon with a new video. Thank you. Bye.